So in this video I'm going to attempt to make a clearance and I want to focus on the stage just after the break when you assess the table and decide how you're going to go about making that clearance. Now you'll have seen me make some of these videos before, and after the break I'll say that you should assess the table, look at which set of colours gives you the best option of making the clearance, decide whether there are any difficult balls, problem balls that might mean that you don't go for the clearance in the first place, look at whether the black is available, and look at your options for your opening pot. So if we look at the table here, the yellow balls are fairly nicely spread, but we haven't got a particularly easy first ball. There's nothing that screams out as being a nice, easy, safe pot. Whereas the reds, we've got this ball over to the right, which gives us a nice opening ball. We can get into the other balls fairly comfortably, so we're fairly confident that we can get started on the red balls. And then we look at problem balls, and if you're going to be able to make a clearance, there's usually a problem ball that you need to sort out. It's very rare that every ball on the table is perfectly placed and in space for you to be able to make the clearance, and I would refer to that problem ball as the key ball in terms of being able to make that clearance. So in this setup here, this red towards the bottom of the table only goes to the bottom right hand corner. It's blocked by these two yellows around it. So before we've even started, we need to be thinking about that key ball, because it's that ball that's going to enable us to be able to complete the clearance. There's also this red over towards the middle pocket that's a little bit close to the rail, but we can get in a position to pot that down the line fairly comfortably, so it's not as much of a problem as this other ball. So if we just switch here to another take where I've placed the balls in roughly the same position as after the break there before. They're not exact, but it's close enough. This is an example of what a lot of players will do in this situation. They might be aware that that ball's a slight problem, but they will just go through the game potting as many balls as they can and sort of disregarding that ball, leaving it till later, hoping it will get developed or something. And you can see here they've got an opportunity to try and take that ball on here, but instead they're looking at the easier pot up to the top of the table because it's simpler to take on, it's easier to get position on the next ball. They're going through, potting the balls, probably feeling quite confident that they're potting things, they're in control of things, not thinking about how they're going to get onto that ball or what they're going to do about it at a later stage. So you can see here, still getting position. And now they've got so the last sort of easy ball, they've got the two more difficult balls left. What are they going to do next? Okay, they can play down here and maybe run into it. Going to try and sort of come down to the bottom of the table and use some side to run into that ball and maybe develop it a bit. Moved it, but not put it in a potable position. Can't really get the other one to the middle either because it's too shallow. So they've gone through and basically made a lot of space on the table for the other player. They're now going to have to take a long shot up the rail, sort of low chance of success. Missed that. Even if they'd made it, wouldn't have been on that other red. And all they've really done here is made life easier for the yellow player by ignoring that key ball and hoping that something might happen with it later on in the game. So we've seen that leaving that key ball until last is not the best idea. So how about taking the opposite approach and trying to sort it out straight away? Now, obviously, if you've got a great angle and you can run into that ball and stay in control of the table and develop it, then I'd certainly recommend that you do that. You should try and develop problem balls as early as possible in a clearance. But you have to make sure that you can do it in such a way that you stay in control of the table. So you can see here the player's got the initial ball to the middle pocket, and the tangent line of that naturally goes into that ball. So they're going to try and pot that ball and run straight into that ball and develop it straight away. And as you can see, the problem with that is it's knocked it down towards a pocket that's covered by the yellow, and now they can't pot that ball. They've moved it out of that tricky position, but now they can't pot it, and at the same time haven't left the cue ball in a position that allows them to pot anything else instead. Yes, they may have got lucky and the red ball may have landed just a fraction lower and they might have been able to pot it, but the chances of that are quite slim. It's difficult when you're running over those distances to judge exactly where that red ball is going to end up. So If you are going to develop the ball, make sure that there are other options in case things don't work out properly. It's not always the best thing to do it immediately if you can't stay in control of the table. So if we go back to the original attempt, what I'm trying to do here is look at how I can get onto that key ball as early as possible, but not in a forced manner. So I'm looking at the layout of the balls and seeing how I can get into this sort of position to be able to pot that ball to the corner. Now I could try and get to it off that first ball to the middle, but then I'd be coming a little bit close to this yellow. So the easiest way to get there is to drop this first ball into the middle and then play off the ball to the bottom corner to get across into that position. So you can see there I've run down nicely, leaving myself a really nice angle just to be able to stun across into this position, which will allow me to pot that ball to the corner. So I'm playing fairly simple shots, nice and controlled, so I can be fairly confident about getting the positions that I need to get into this position. And now I've left myself in a nice position to be able to pot that ball. Now the important thing here is making sure I can pot it, but also making sure that I can continue with the clearance afterwards. Now you can see here the tangent line comes down into the bottom of the table, and ideally we'd like to then come back up between these two balls and back up towards these balls to the middle. But you can see it's a fairly narrow gap there to get through. The beauty of this is that we could, if we get this slightly wrong, we can clip off the first ball and still head up in that direction. So I'm going to err on the side of that ball and run up nicely into these three balls. So you can see either way would work there. If we'd have missed that and gone through the gap, we'd probably been in a fairly similar position. So now I'm starting to think about how I can get in a position to take out this other slightly awkward ball over on the right hand side of the table. Ideally I want to try and pot that down to the bottom corner. It's too shallow to easily go into that middle pocket. So I just need to get the cue ball over the right hand side of the table, somewhere over there. Now I could do that straight away, but the cue ball is going to be travelling quite a distance, a little bit harder to control the pace on that. I prefer to do that in a slightly more controlled manner. So what I'm going to do is pot this ball to the middle and then go up and down the table back in between these two balls here. Now the beauty about coming in between these two balls is that it gives me a couple of options. If I land high on the top of these two balls, then it gives me a nice angle across to the right hand side of the table. If I travel a bit further and come low on the ball to the left middle, then I can screw back across to the right hand side of the table again. So by taking that option, it gives me a couple of options to get that same position fairly comfortably. So we've travelled along the tangent line there nicely and ended up just above the ball to the top right hand corner, which is perfect because that gives us a tangent line of this direction. It means we can run nicely over to the right hand side of the table and be in a good position to pot that ball down the line. So just a case of running forward just a touch from that tangent line, and now we've got a nice angle to be able to pot that down to the bottom corner. Now ideally I'd like to screw back a little bit from this red and finish above the yellow, high on this red to the opposite middle, so that I could then play down and then pot the black back across to the middle pocket. But to be able to screw back there, it means that I need to play that shot firmer. And as I've said in lots of my other videos, playing balls down the line on an English pool table with any sort of pace decreases your chances of making that pot. It's very easy to rattle a ball in those corner pockets when playing at a shallow angle like that. So it's far more important here to be able to make the pot. I can play this shot gently and give the ball much more chance of dropping into that corner pocket and travel forward and still be on that red to the middle pocket. Okay, I haven't got the best angle to get on the black, but it's far more important to stay in control and make sure of this pot. If I miss this pot here, I'm leaving the yellows wide open for the yellow player. So I'm going to play this nice and gently, giving the ball every chance of dropping into that corner pocket and still leaving myself on the red to the middle. Now, it's ended up fairly straight. It's just below the ball. So there's a tiny angle there. So the tangent line's going up and down the table. So I could try and force the cue ball up and down the table, but that's quite dangerous. Might not get the position, and I might even miss the pot if I did that. So what I'm going to look to do here is just steal a little bit of the middle pocket, not too much, make sure I don't hit the jaw and bounce back out, and try and just screw back in a straight line and come back to where the cue ball is now, between the black and the yellow, off that side cushion, and then I'll leave myself on the black back to the same pocket that the red's gone into. If I'm slightly out, I might nick the yellow, but that would actually give us the same effect. If we nick the yellow, then it's going to bring the cue ball down again in line with the black ball. So making sure here that I'm cueing nice and straight and controlled, hitting nice and low on the cue ball. And I have actually clipped the yellow there, but as I said, it's just brought us down into a natural position on that black anyway. So it didn't matter either way there. Left us nice and straight on this black to the middle, so it's a nice easy pot, nice and gentle to drop that into the middle. So as I said at the beginning, when you're assessing the table, look for that key ball and work out how you're going to do something about it. Don't leave it until later. Don't be forced into trying to do something about it straight away. Look at the options with the other balls you've got on the table that gives you the best way to sort it out early, but in a controlled manner. Hopefully, if you can then take out that key ball, it will then allow you to go on to clear the table. If you want to see more practice routines and pool tutorials, then please remember to subscribe. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I use in this video, then there are links in the description below.